This actually happened over several years. Police departments across the United States began reporting something unusual. 911 calls were coming from buildings that were empty. Not empty for a few hours, empty for months. Dispatchers would answer the call. The line would connect successfully, but no one would speak. Officers were sent to investigate because every connected 911 call has to be treated as real. When they arrived, they found locked buildings, closed offices, vacant retail stores, no broken windows, no forced entry, no signs that anyone had been inside. Yet the emergency system logs showed the calls were fully completed connections. At first, the report seemed isolated, a single vacant storefront in one city, an empty office suite in another, a commercial building between tenants. But then similar incidents began appearing in different states and some towns. The calls started happening repeatedly, the same address late at night, sometimes more than once a week. One department reported responding to the same vacant commercial property multiple times in a single month. Each time, the structure was empty. Dispatch records confirmed that the calls had connected for several seconds before disconnecting. These were not accidental mobile calls. The signals were traced back to internal landline systems. Inside the properties, technicians were eventually brought in to inspect the phone equipment. Many of the affected buildings were using VoIP systems, voice over internet protocol, rather than traditional analog landlines. These systems rely on internet connections and internal network hardware to place calls. Investigators examined the wiring. They checked alarm panels. They reviewed the configuration of emergency auto dial features. In certain cases, they were able to identify possible causes. Power fluctuations could trigger emergency dialing systems. Network instability could cause corrupted signals. Misconfigured security hardware could accidentally activate 911 call features during reboot cycles. In those buildings, replacing or updating the hardware appeared to stop the issue. But not every case was resolved so cleanly. In several reports, technicians found no clear malfunction. The wiring tested normally. The internet connections were stable. Phone systems passed diagnostics, and yet the emergency logs showed calls in at least one documented case. A dispatcher reported hearing something faint on the line before it disconnected. It wasn't speech. It wasn't clear static. It sounded like movement. The call lasted 11 seconds. Officers searched the building thoroughly that night. The property had been vacant for nearly 4 months. Nothing was found. As more reports surfaced, departments began noticing patterns. The calls often occurred between midnight and 4 in the morning. Properties were usually unoccupied commercial spaces rather than residential homes. Calls were logged as successful emergency connections, not dropped or failed attempts. In some locations, updating the VoIP hardware or disconnecting unused alarm systems stopped the calls entirely. In other cases, the calls simply stopped on their own. No hardware replacement, no configuration change, no identified cause. Emergency systems are built with redundancy. They are designed to avoid false activations, especially when it comes to contacting 911. A completed emergency call is never ignored because dispatchers cannot assume a glitch when someone's safety might be at risk. Every time one of these calls came in, officers responded. They walked through dark hallways. They checked empty rooms. They searched buildings that had no legal occupants, and every time they found nothing. Most of the incidents were eventually attributed to technical faults, aging equipment, outdated wiring, network instability, software misconfigurations, but not every report received a confirmed explanation. In several cases, the official conclusion was simply that the cause could not be determined. The calls had connected, the logs showed valid emergency activity, and then, just as suddenly as they started, the calls stopped. No suspect, no intruder, no confirmed malfunction, just empty buildings that had dialed 911. In emergency services, a connected call is always treated as real because sometimes someone really is on the other end of the line.